Adonai, O God, Ma'adam v'teda ehu, ben enosh v'tachashvehu. Adonai, it is beyond our grasp that our lives truly make a difference, that you or anyone should notice. For in the scope of this vast universe, we are like a single breath. Our days are like a passing shadow. We come and we go like grass which in the morning shoots up renewed and in the evening fades and withers. At the end of our lives, it is ordained that we return to the earth, that we are at one with all creation. Our souls, however, our souls continue on to eternity. If only we were wise that we understood what happens when our days on earth have ended, then death would not be seen as a total ending, for when we die, we carry nothing away. Our deeds on earth and the love that we gave, the love that we shared, does not disappear, but lives on through those we touched and those we treasured. Death has taken our beloved Jerry. Can't believe I'm saying those words. And his dear family, and so many good friends. All of us here, all of us out there watching through this live stream. Grieve the loss we must now face. In our tears, there is loneliness. Lost in sorrow, may we find the presence of loving friends, and may we be strengthened by the gift of family. For Jerry's love that united us in life in which death cannot sever, for his companionship that we shared along life's path, and which continues through the tenderness of memory. For the many gifts of his heart and mind that brought so much joy and so much happiness, and is now a precious remembrance. For all these and more, we give our thanks. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Jason Wasdorf, the rabbi here at Temple Israel. You heard the beautiful singing of my wife, Lindy Passer, who is our soloist, and we have with us this morning as well Rabbi Stephen Chester, one of my predecessors here at Temple Israel and a dear friend of mine and of the Yecies family. We were chatting on the phone just the other day when we heard about Jerry's death. And Steve said to me, you know, Jerry was the very first person in Stockton I met. He picked me up at the airport. He was the chair of the search committee when the temple was looking for a rabbi. And I said, you're kidding. I didn't know that. Jerry was the chair of the search committee when they were looking for the rabbi when I came. And he was one of the very first people that I met coming to Stockton. And I remember it like it was yesterday. How warmly and graciously he welcomed me into the community. And I guess I did okay, I'm here. And through the years, Jerry has been such a blessing, not only to me and to Steve, but to our entire temple community and well beyond the city of Stockton. Is so very blessed. He was a pillar in so many ways, a consummate leader and supporter and benefactor, but even beyond that, just such a loving presence who helped to set a tone of graciousness. In Judaism, when we encounter someone who is a kind and a good and a sweet person, we say, they're a mensch. And I don't have to tell you, because you all know that Jerry Yecies personified what it is to be a mensch. When you look up mensch in the Yiddish dictionary, there's a picture of Jerry right there. If this had been 2 weeks ago, I'm sure that wall would be open and this room would be filled all the way to the back. But this is a reality that we face, and we know that people are not here physically today because of the virus, and many people need not to be here today. And we understand that those who are out there in the live stream, we are embracing you, and even though I'm just looking at a camera, we feel your presence, as does Judy and the entire family. And those of us who are here, we are going to practice social distancing. It's extremely difficult not to give a hug. I just want to embrace every member of the family and give them that love and compassion and warmth. And I can't, and we can't, but we all understand it. So this is what we're going to do today, and it speaks volumes. We feel it. This is a virtual hug. We're a family. Jerry's immediate and extended family is an incredible family, and the office family is another family that is Jerry's family, and the temple family, and the medical community family. And we're not all Jewish, but we share the love of Jerry, and many of us share in faith common words that have brought comfort and strength to mourners throughout the ages. A common scripture. And if you can, I invite you to join me in reciting the 23rd Psalm. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He maketh me to lie down in green pastures. He leadeth me beside the still waters. He restoreth my soul. He leadeth me in the paths of righteousness for his name's sake. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me. Thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. Thou preparest a table before me in the presence of mine enemies. Thou anointest my head with oil. My cup runneth over. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I shall dwell in the house of the Lord forever. Those are ancient words and comforting words, even though we don't necessarily understand all those images. Now, anointest my head with oil. We don't do those things anymore. But anyone who has ever mourned the loss of a loved one understands the image of that valley of the shadows, that sad place that we find ourselves when we're mourning someone so important to us. But there's wisdom that we do understand. because the text says, yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadows. It's a place we have to go and spend time. We have to put aside our daily lives and take the time to mourn. Take the time to remember and to process and to feel the deep feelings and to know that the sadness we feel is a measure of the love that we were so lucky to have. But we don't stay in that place. We walk through that place. We go on eventually with our lives, and that's important. And if we think about our loved ones, if we think about Jerry, such an optimistic, life-affirming, non-stop moving, energetic man, and what he would want for you is to mourn for him in respectful ways, but then to go on living your lives to their fullest, to keep traveling, to keep doing, and to have that be a living tribute to him. And so that's what we're going to do. L'chol zman ve'et l'chol chafetz tachat hashamayim. For everything there is a season and a time for every experience under heaven. Eit laledet ve'et lamut, a time to be born and a time to die. Eit lata'at ve'et la'akor natua, a time to plant and a time to uproot what is planted. A time to tear down and a time to build up. A time to weep and a time to laugh. A time to grieve and a time to dance. A time to throw stones and a time to gather stones. A time to embrace and a time to refrain from embracing. A time to seek and a time to lose. A time to keep and a time to discard. A time to tear and a time to sow. A time to keep silence and a time to speak. Life is a succession of suns and seasons. It is time spent growing, grasping, and giving. It is warmth and wonder, cold and confusion. It is love. Life is love. Life is love lost. Life is heartache moderated by happiness. Life is all this because life is an uncharted journey. Life is pain and life is passion. Life is loneliness and loveliness too. Life should be unending. What of the loves not lived, the labors left unfinished, the wishes only whispered and the words still left unspoken? We the living, we are the loved. We the living are the dreams fulfilled. We are the promises of what has passed and the fashioners of what is yet to come. Through us the past lives on. Upon our deeds, our words, and our kindness rests the quality of the future. All the prayers that we recite today, the El Malay Rachamim, the 23rd Psalm, the Kaddish, these are all for the living. They are our verbal response to the sadness surrounded by beauty, the gift of life and love. They remind us of a warm past, and they challenge us to perpetuate this warmth in the weeks and the months and the years to come for ourselves and for the generations yet to come. We have so many good stories to tell of a life well lived. And I know that everyone in this room probably has a great story share and wonderful memories of Jerry. And so I'd like to invite us to take a few quiet moments that each might pray in our own way, and so that each of us can reflect upon the life of Jerry Yecies and think about how we were touched by him and by his sweet soul. Let us take a few quiet moments. Loving, dedicated, loyal, smart, curious, compassionate, humble, organized, stubborn and strong-willed, tough and sometimes intimidating, but soft and warm and sweet through and through. His love was unconditional. These are only some of the adjectives and phrases that we can use to begin to describe Jerry Yecies and the incredible man he was. He was a smart and gifted and uniquely talented man, a brilliant doctor, and a natural-born leader who did what he did not for praise or for accolades, but out of a sense of duty. He always wanted to do his part to help whatever organization or institution he was a part of, from his high school youth group region, AZA, to his college fraternity, ZBT, the San Joaquin Medical Society in Temple, Israel, all of which he served as president. And I imagine I'm probably missing a few. And he was loyal and a loving brother and husband, father, grandfather, and great-grandfather, which were the titles that meant even more to him. That's what was most important in his life. As a friend, Jerry was as good as gold. He made friends everywhere he went, and he kept those friends through the years. So many became lifelong friends from all around the country and the world. You're going to hear beautiful tributes today from Judy and Jerry's 3 children, and a combined tribute from his grandchildren. So they will be making my job easy today. I will just be giving a thumbnail sketch of some of the biographical information and setting the stage for what's to follow. It's a wonderful, moving story filled with love and hard work and enthusiastic exploration and insatiable curiosity, some hardship, overcome by love and more love. Jerry was born in Pittsburgh in 1940. His family lived in the nearby steel mill town of McKeesport, where Jerry grew up. But it was important to his mother that his birth certificate record the more sophisticated Pittsburgh, where she grew up. So that's where she went to give birth. His parents, William and Ann, were both firstborn American children of Jewish immigrants, and being Jewish and being American was a very important part of their identity. These things were also very important to Jerry throughout his life. And this identity and these values were something he tried very hard and successfully, I think, to instill in his children and grandchildren. Jerry's father owned a clothing store that specialized in working men's clothes, which was situated right across the street from the mill. It provided a modest living for Jerry's family, which included his parents and 2 younger brothers, Robert and Richard. He definitely was not born with a silver spoon in his mouth, but worked hard for every success he ever attained in life. And he learned from a young age how to apply himself and persevere. I think that is why Jerry always showed so much respect and deference for people from all stations in life. Didn't matter if you were rich or if you were poor, if you had a high IQ or not. Jerry once struck up a conversation with a hospital worker, a gurney pusher, who told him how unhappy he was with his job and said he wished he was outside. So Jerry asked him what kind of job he would like to do outside, and when the man said, I don't know, maybe a gardener, Jerry offered him a job on the spot. He was Jerry and Judy's gardener for the next 45 years. Not the best gardener, but... Jerry's father loved sports, and that too is something that he inherited from him. Jerry loved to reminisce about the games they would attend together along with his brothers at Forbes Field, followed by a meal at Big Boy, where Jerry would chow down on 2 hamburgers, fries, and a milkshake. Did I mention how much Jerry loved to eat? He actually weighed 200 pounds at his bar mitzvah, but became more svelte in his later teenage years. From his mother, Jerry inherited his appreciation for culture, the theater, the symphony, and some of the finer things in life. In addition to being an excellent student, Jerry was also an accomplished musician. I didn't know that. He played the clarinet and considered making that his career. He even received a college scholarship for music, but decided to pursue pre-med instead as a chemistry major. I asked Judy where he got the idea of wanting to be a doctor. She said he had a Jewish mother. Like most young boys, he sometimes got a kick out of tormenting his younger brothers, sometimes with his clarinet playing. And when they complained to their parents, they would say, "Leave him alone, he's practicing." Jerry first met his beloved wife and the love of his life, Judy, at the Sunday school at the local Reformed temple. She was from a small farming community just a few miles away, but her parents sent her to the temple in McKeesport, telling her they wanted her to meet a Yosef or a Yankel, meaning a nice Jewish boy, of which there were none in her small town. Well, that's exactly what happened. Judy was just 12 years old at the time, and Jerry was 13, and they became fast friends. And Judy said, from the first day they met, they talked every day for the rest of their lives. Took a few more years before Jerry and Judy actually became boyfriend and girlfriend, and then exclusive. But Jerry did invite Judy to be his date at the 8th grade picnic, and the confirmation dance, and every high school prom. They truly were best friends first, and then lovers, and finally husband and wife, as it should be. Surprisingly, Jerry and Judy's parents did not approve of their relationship because although they were both Jewish, they came from different sides of the track. Jerry's mother would prefer he meet someone from Pittsburgh. They tried to split them up by sending them to different colleges, miles apart, opposite directions, but it didn't work. They wrote letters to each other every day, and Jerry called once a week with the quarters he carefully saved from his scholarship stipend. He would also hitchhike to come visit Judy, spending the night with his local ZBT fraternity brothers. Judy accelerated her studies, finishing a year early because she wanted to be with Jerry. But when they got their parents together and told them they wanted to get married, they refused. So Jerry and Judy went to a justice of the peace and eloped. Wow, Judy. That, of course, only got their parents more upset. But what was done was done. They were only 20 and 21 at the time. Jerry and Judy got an off-campus apartment, and Judy began teaching. That is, until she got pregnant with Stephen and had to resign. That's just how it was in those days. And what followed were several years of hardship where they had so little, but they had each other. And Jerry worked hard and was very resourceful, and they started to build a family together. It was truly a Romeo and Juliet or a West Side Story kind of romance, but their story has a happy ending. with 3 children, Stephen, Michael, and Carolyn, 9 grandchildren, and 5 great-grandchildren. And eventually, their parents did come around, accepting their marriage. You'll be hearing in a few minutes about Jerry as a father and a grandfather from his children and grandchildren. Jerry and Judy moved together through medical school at Hahnemann in Philadelphia, where in his senior year, Jerry enlisted in the Navy because those were the days of the draft. He might have been sent to Vietnam. But again, due to Jerry's resourcefulness and maybe a little luck, he managed to join the Naval Public Health Service, and he and Judy, with Stephen in tow, were stationed in Naples, Italy, where Jerry served as the epidemiologist for the 6th Fleet. They lived like royalty in a wonderful apartment with a balcony and a beautiful view of Mount Vesuvius. Wow. And Jerry got sent out on assignment all over Europe, and this is where he first acquired his wanderlust and love of travel, which you will also hear about from his kids. I'll just add the statistic that Jerry, with Judy by his side, is said to have visited every continent and over 120 different countries all around the world. Jerry did a short-lived residency in pediatrics where he decided that's not what he wanted to do. His very first patient on his very first day threw up all over him. After a year and after his Navy service, he was accepted into a residency program in allergy and immunology at National Jewish Hospital in Denver, which set the stage for his wonderful and meaningful career. It was there where he met his colleague and partner, George Bench, and the two of them decided to start practice together and head west. Jerry and Judy visited dozens of cities on the weekends, camping in a tent along the way because they were still quite poor and couldn't afford to stay in hotels. I don't have time to share all the details, but Stockton fit all the criteria that Jerry and Judy and George had for a place to settle. So Stockton it was. And boy, are we, those of us who have lived in Stockton throughout the years of Jerry's life here, we are all so lucky. I'm thinking of the thousands of patients since 1973 that Jerry has taken care of as an allergist, giving them healthier and happier lives and showing them so much kindness and patience and compassion. I'm thinking of our temple community who has benefited from his leadership throughout the years and his generosity. Whether he was on the board, which he was for several years, or the foundation board, or the food fair leadership team, and even when he wasn't, he has been a central pillar of this community. And the list of local institutions and organizations that he has supported goes on, as does the list of people whose lives Jerry has touched and enhanced and embraced, starting with his own family and then radiating out into the world to eternity, like ripples in a pond. Jerry, we could never thank you enough for all you did and all you gave, and for the example of Menschlichkeit, of kindness, that you always personified. You were such a gift and such a blessing to us all, but we will never forget you. And your legacy will live on through your family and friends, all of us, everyone who was lucky enough to know you. On to the family now to share what they have prepared beautiful and powerful words, starting with Judy. This morning when I got up for my early morning cry, I looked outside and I saw that the sky was cloudy, morning, raining. I thought, even the heavens are crying. I will be brief because you know Jerry would complain if the service went on too long. He was my best friend for over 66 years. He made life fun and exciting. The secret of a perfect marriage is two imperfect people who love and are positive and are kind and refuse to give up on the other person. Jerry's imagination was limitless, and endless was his curiosity and quest for adventure. We traveled to all 7 continents, sometimes accompanied by friends, sometimes accompanied by family, and sometimes just the 2 of us. Jerry's devotion to his family, his patience, his friends was legendary. He loved you all. He loved the wonderful people he worked with, and his office was his second home. His kindness and generosity knew no bounds. I shall love him, miss him, and treasure our memories all the days of my life. We both knew how fortunate we were to be married to our Jerold, our soulmate. I appreciate so much the love and support of our wonderful children, grandchildren, and extended family and friends. Your outpouring of love and support have been overwhelming. Thank you all for being here, either in person or by modern technology. I appreciate it, and thank you. And now, Jerry's 3 children, in birth order. First Stephen, then Michael, then Carolyn.
I'm deeply appreciative that you're here with us today, whether it is live or online, as we remember the remarkable journey in life that my father led. My father was very fortunate that he really got to live his life on his own terms. But this didn't occur by luck or happenstance, even though he had a great deal of good fortune. It came from an intentional design, intermingling family, work, and travel. That was my father's way of providing for his family and contributing to the community. It gave him a tremendous sense of purpose and fulfillment. This was all made possible from a strong, stable foundation of support, married to my mother, whom he met in 7th grade for 58 years. And my friends commented that I got married young at 22, or my 2 oldest sons were married very young at 23. I was able to reply that we were a lot older than my dad was when he got married. And my dad told me that it was less about the right age than the right spouse who shares your values and aspirations that my mom just mentioned. While my father settled in Stockton and traveled far, he never forgot his roots. I have many childhood memories of August trips to a hot, humid McKeesport, staying in an un-air-conditioned house where my father grew up on Sumac Street. Our days would consist of 6 to 8 visits to relatives. You had to be gracious and you had to eat at each visit. And this tradition never stopped, though the family dispersed to all corners of the U.S. and the world. To my dad and to my mom, there's no such thing as a token invitation. If you invite them, they will be there. And they came and they went. No matter how far removed the relative was from the family tree, the same ethos extended to friends and their families as well. But my dad didn't want to miss work. It would be leaving on a Friday red-eye and be back in the office for patients on Monday morning. My father didn't share too much about his childhood with me or his past, But he did make a special point of telling me about the jobs he took to get through school and to support a young family. You know my father as a physician, but to get there and to supplement the income my mother made as an elementary school teacher, my father painted barns, he waited tables, he worked in research labs, he started a small barbecue catering company. He spent a summer as a U.S. postman and another one driving an ice cream truck as a good humor man. And he would accept any odd job along the way. He gave an extra year to the military in return for a stipend that allowed him to finish medical school. He really worked so hard to become a physician, and that's part of why it meant so much to him. He shared these stories with me so that I would never take what I generously received in life for granted, to impart that there was great dignity in all work. My dad never was overly prescriptive in what I chose to do, but he did insist that it be done with full effort and that I never quit what I started. After a rough first year in college, I told my dad, I'm not so sure I want to wear a coat and tie to work every day. I don't know if I really want to be in school. My dad didn't argue with me. He just sent me, he worked out that I could go to my uncle's construction company for part of the summer, shoveling cement on a road crew in Pittsburgh. I made a tremendous amount of money working 12 hours a day on union wages, 6 days a week. But most importantly, I was incredibly motivated to return to school. My career would be much more fulfilling. I have so many special memories of our family trips. When our family was more modest means, these were long camping trips in a station wagon with a tent that took us to almost 40 states. And being with my dad, that meant every national park and monument along the way. As my dad started his practice, this expanded to nicer accommodations and more fascinating international destinations. When I arrived at my freshman year at Dartmouth, what I lacked in a formal classroom education was more than compensated for by a rich worldview, both domestically and internationally. It was formed from these travels, and these experiences are still an important part of who I am today and my work today. Just this past Tuesday, my dad spent a full day in the office seeing patients. Then he came home and had dinner with my mom and some visiting friends. Wednesday morning, he fell ill. He collapsed, and he passed away early Thursday morning with his wife, his children, and some of his grandchildren at his side. My father always wanted to get the most out of life. He was never idle. He embraced life in his own way, always looking forward to what came next. Yesterday, as we gathered with the rabbi, I really appreciated the words of my Uncle Alan when he reflected and he said, well, my father is gone, he will never leave. In fact, as you'll see, he is multiplied. As his children, his grandchildren, great-grandchildren reflect in him in their own unique way so many of the values and attributes that he modeled, lived, and treasured. Just as we will spread his ashes, his impact is spread in ways both conscious and unconscious to so many that he touched in different ways. As his friends, colleagues, and family gathered here today, here and online, I hope that each and every one of you take something from my father that you hold dear with you, so that his memory may always be a blessing to you as it is to me. Thank you.
Thank you to everyone for coming, either in person or virtually. You don't get to pick your parents, but if I was ever given the choice, I would have picked both of mine immediately. I was incredibly lucky to have a dad like my dad. He was my role model and a remarkable man who led a full, happy, and fulfilling life, and I am grateful for every day we had together. I'm even more grateful that my wife Nancy and children Noah and Avery had the opportunity to develop their own wonderful relationships with my dad. My father was loving, generous, kind, supportive, compassionate, and hardworking. He was also humble and very respectful of others. He had excellent values, and I have tried to honor them and pass them on to my children. He had a zest for life and lived life to the fullest. He loved to be active and did not like having idle time. While I was watching TV or playing video games as a child, I remember that my dad would always be multitasking, paying bills or reading or planning a trip or doing something else at the same time. He was always very efficient with his time, and he appreciated that quality in others too. Family was of utmost importance to my father, and he felt blessed and fortunate to have such a large family who he was very close to. Growing up, I have wonderful memories of our family always having dinner together. That was important to my parents, and it became important to me too. We also had the good fortune to travel all over the world together, which provided us with many fond memories. Among other subjects, my dad's knowledge of geography was incredible. His mind was a human globe. He predated GPS because he had a photographic memory and an incredible sense of direction. When he traveled, he loved to see as many sights as possible, and our days were full and fun. All of my dad's travels only reinforced his love of and pride in the United States and all of its freedoms and ideals. He was very conscious of his heritage and grateful for the opportunities in life that America offered him. His success in life was directly attributable to his hard work, dedication, and abilities. But he always credited our country with how it provides opportunities for its citizens. My father was intellectually curious. He loved history and exploring cultures. He enjoyed attending symphonies, museums, and other cultural institutions, and enjoyed supporting them. I am very proud that I share many of my father's traits. These include putting family first, being active, stubborn, having a love of travel, food, and history, and many others, including chairing a rabbi search committee. I will miss his daily presence, but I know he will always be with me. My father was very resourceful at home and when we traveled. As a doctor, it did not matter that he specialized in allergies. He stitched me up when I cracked my head open. He gave me allergy shots at home until pressure from my siblings forced me to start getting them at my dad's office, which was a blessing. And he assisted our extended family members on every illness and injury that occurred within the family. It was really his pleasure to do it. In the summer of 2011, Nancy, Noah, Avery, and I were in Israel for a bar mitzvah for one of Nancy's cousins. By coincidence, my parents were also traveling in Israel with my sister and her kids at the same time. On the first night we got together at the hotel, my mom asked Nancy and me to come to their room without the kids. This was an unusual request, and I sensed that something was up. My parents then told us that Dad had just been diagnosed with stage 4 lymphoma, which was a very serious diagnosis, and they described his treatment plan. I recall that my father discussed it in a very scientific manner. Of course, we were all concerned because we did not know how he would react to the treatment. In the almost 9 years that followed, my father had many ups and downs physically. But he was incredibly brave and forward-looking and always determined to lead his life the way he wanted to, on his own terms. While many people would have chosen at that point to dramatically change their lives, that was not my dad's way. It was very important to him to continue living his active, busy life. That is the way he wanted it, and I'm glad that is the way he chose to address it over the past 9 years, because his determination and drive was integral to his identity and the essence of his being. He died living the way he wanted to, which brings me tremendous comfort. One day my dad told me that most people don't know how they will die or what they will die from, but he knew, and that was that, and he tried not to let his condition slow him down, because he loved living his life. I would be remiss not to mention that my mom was an incredible caretaker for my dad over all these years. Seeing your loved one and best friend experience this decline over many years was obviously very difficult for her, but she was incredibly brave and heroic in the way she cared for Dad. She instinctively knew exactly what he wanted and needed, and she provided it on a daily basis in her loving, caring, and selfless way. Just as my parents' marriage for 58 plus years has been a model to follow, I will always admire the way my mom cared for my dad's condition, with dignity, respect, compassion, and so much love. It is hard to say goodbye when you know you will not see someone again. We were last together, appropriately, at a family celebration in San Francisco at the end of February. He had a great time there. When he and my mom dropped me off at the airport a couple weeks ago, we said we look forward to seeing each other again at the next family celebration in Philadelphia at the end of March. As we always did when we said goodbye, we hugged and kissed each other. I told him I loved him, and he told me he loved me. We ended all of our conversations this way. Dad, thank you for everything you did for our family. Thank you for living a life full of meaning and purpose and for helping others. I was always so proud of you, and you will always be such an important part of my life. I love you and miss you and will always be grateful that I was so lucky to have you as my father.
I would like to share with you what it was like to be the daughter of Jerry Yecies. In no other terms, it was simply the best. I won the lottery on fathers. My dad showed me, not told me, how to fully embrace life and live according to one's principles. It's so difficult to summarize the impact my father had on me and others, so I thought it best just to highlight a few lessons he imparted and some of the characteristics that best defined him in my eyes. First, happiness and vitality. It did not take much to make my dad happy. He was an internal optimist and enjoyed life. My father was committed to attending family and friends, milestones, and occasions, no matter the location or the time. My brothers and I often had to tell people, do not send my parents a token invitation. They do not understand that concept. Whether it was a graduation party, a sporting event, a dance show, he made every effort to attend and made sure to communicate how honored and happy he was to share that event with you. He was generous with kind words and took pleasure watching others realize their own achievements, no matter how big or how small. He and my mom took great joy hosting dinners and parties to celebrate life's special moments. My father was always an enthusiastic guest and a gracious host. If you had more than a 5 to 10 minute conversation with my dad, you were considered a friend. It goes without saying that my father had many friends, as he was a loquacious man. He lived life fully, taking advantage of new opportunities and always looking for a reason or an excuse to travel. I can sum up his daily way of living in 6 words: do things, the more, the better. He was an expert in living life, period. Second is compassion. As a physician, my dad deeply cared about his patients, his dedicated office staff, his partners, and his professional colleagues. He practiced medicine because it gave him personal fulfillment to help others. He loved his job, and he worked hard to improve the health and quality of life of his patients. For family, he demonstrated compassion through his unconditional love. He always let us know that he was there if we ever needed anything. We could count on him to listen, to comfort, or to help. My father taught me to treat others with the kindness and respect that we wish for ourselves. He truly appreciated when someone did something kind for him or went out of their way to be thoughtful. These gestures were never missed on my father. If one measures life by all of the people we touch, then it is certain my father had a very full and abundant life. Third was integrity and generosity. My dad displayed tremendous strength of character. He was a man who lived by his principles and demonstrated integrity in all that he did. He never shied away from a responsibility toward his community or family. If your name was Yecies, rhymed with Yecies, or even if you thought you knew a Yecies, he thought of you as family, and he took you into his warm fold. My dad showed me that humility is a virtue. He never needed others' praise or acknowledgement of his achievements or generosity. He was so generous with his time, his resources, and his advice. He rarely spoke of these generosities, and he never expected anything in return. He continually strived to better this world, and I feel that if he had the chance to look back on his time here, he would know that he spent it well and that he made a difference. I'd like to end my remarks with a note to my dad. Dad, you were my hero. You gave me everything a daughter could want or need, and I felt your unconditional love each and every day. Madeline, Maxwell, Curtis, and I will cherish our many memories of you and will preserve your presence will be forever carried in our hearts, and your inspiration will be displayed in our actions. The depth of our love for you mirrors the depth of our loss. Do not worry about Mom, your beloved Judy. We will always be there for Mom, and she will be loved and surrounded by the family the two of you created and the wonderful friends who were present in your life. I was always inspired by the beautiful relationship the two of you shared. Dad, you left this world a better place, as everyone who ever crossed your path will attest. I will continue to celebrate your life and all that I do. I am so grateful to have had you as a parent. I love you, and I thank you.
Jerry's 9 grandchildren got together and composed a combined tribute, but we're going to invite them all up onto the beam, and they're each going to read a small part. Derek, Todd, Margot, Adam, Noah, Avery, Madeline, Maxwell, and Curtis.
While we all received innumerable presents from our grandfather over the years, and for those who are counting, today would have been the 81st night of Hanukkah. By far the greatest gift was the many years we were privileged to spend with him. All of us have moments we can fondly remember where he made us laugh uncontrollably, jump with excitement, and feel truly loved. More than anything, though, he made us better human beings, and we are honored to share our wonderful memories of him with you today.
Our grandfather came to all of our events, regardless of the distance or perceived significance. Between all of us, he came and celebrated 219 birthdays, 29 graduations, 9 b'nai mitzvahs, and 2 weddings. He came to countless school plays, camp visiting days, sports events, and performances. He called for every birthday, and he would move heaven and earth to come celebrate a milestone and stand by our side. Even in his later years, when health was an issue and we tried to convince him otherwise, we knew he would always be there. No matter where you were in the world, he always visited us with a big smile and a warm hug, and with my grandma Judy by his side, often with a fresh bundt cake.
Our grandpa Jerry had a passion for travel that he shared with us all, most notably through our grandparents' tradition of the 11-year-old trips. They let us, as 11-year-olds, pick a destination. And while those trips took us all around the world to 7 continents, Camp Stockton has remained our favorite destination. These trips are just one example of how our grandpa always threw himself fully into whatever it was we wanted to do.
Whatever destination we chose, he would tailor the itineraries to fit our interests. Whether it was adding Zorbing in New Zealand for Noah and myself, or going to a Thai silk dress shop with Avery and Madeline. So dedicated was he to letting the grandkids pick the food and activities that he had us all thoroughly convinced that he actually liked the food at John's Incredible Pizza Company and the sandwiches, or the sandwiches at Subway.
Grandpa never shied away from an opportunity to teach us something new or discuss our hobbies. He taught us the value one could find in Animal House and James Bond movies, the precise moment to take Zyrtec to maintain spring allergies, to Sacramento Kings trivia, and much more. Regardless of the topic, he was always extremely patient and excited to watch us grow. We all treasured his attention and couldn't wait to share our new knowledge with our friends.
Over the years, we all received physical newspaper clippings from Grandpa targeted at our interests, as well as medications targeted at our allergies. There was nothing better than coming home from a long day to find a manila envelope with Grandpa's distinct doctor scrawl on the front. We knew the envelope meant he had read a newspaper article and thought of us from miles away. He never quite mastered the ability to email online links to articles, but that was just part of his charm.
Drafting this speech, we realized how difficult it was to separate our grandparents. They did everything together, except for voting, yet always maintained a beautiful level of love and respect. The close bond they shared for over 60 years is a testament to their commitment and loyalty to each other. While the 96 Bulls were pretty good, as far as we're concerned, our grandma and grandpa were the best team the world has ever seen.
His commitment to family was infectious. Our grandparents ensured our entire family spent time together, at least once a year. This small army of Yecies, the East Side, spent a week every December playing board games, going to the movies, making comically large Costco runs, and simply chatting about our lives. Through these trips, we all became incredibly close, something in which our grandfather took great pride. Even now, as we're scattered across the country, we make a concerted effort to stay in touch and see each other as often as possible.
Our grandpa was truly beloved and will be dearly missed. We feel incredibly grateful to have had such a caring, loving person in our lives. Grandpa Jerry taught us how the Israeli lights made oil last for 8 nights, how to conserve an iPhone battery for 4 months, and how to make a single water glass last for 79 years. He meant the world to us. We love you, Grandpa.
I know that as we went through some of the service and some of the talks that were all so beautiful and looking at the family, I do want to say that there was a little voice that was heard in the back every once in a while. And I think Jerry would have loved it. Because one thing that I know the whole family, and actually being part of their family for a long time, is that Jerry believed in Midor Lador, which in Hebrew means from generation to generation, and that it was the family that was the most significant and important thing in his life. I'd like to go back to 1976 for a moment, when I applied for the position here in Stockton from Michigan. And when I landed at the Stockton airport, you could fly into Stockton at that time, and the first thing I was told is that the only place that I-5 is not complete between Canada and Mexico is between Stockton and Sacramento. I was greeted by Jerry Yecies. My wife had said to me, because our son had very bad allergies, had said, make sure you ask a question about allergies in Stockton, and do they have any allergists? Not knowing what Dr. Yecies did, we got into the car, and I said, I have to ask you this question, because if I don't, I can't go home. I said, is there an allergist in Stockton? And he said, yes, there are a few. I said, is there a good allergist in Stockton? And he said, well, I'm an allergist. And at that time, and since, it's been a friendship. Not only did he treat our son, but a friendship that's lasted and will continue to last for a long time. Jerry, as Michael said, for our family too, was a go-to doctor, because he seemed to know everything about medicine. No matter what was wrong in the family, we would always call, and he would always call back and was so very, very gracious. And as a rabbi, certain things happen. You have many congregants, and some become very close friends and become part of your family. And that's the way it was with us, that we became friends of the Yecies and they became our friends, even going so far as to allow our son to stay with them for a year while we moved to Oakland. And I thought, and I said this to Jerry and to Judy, that any family that will take a 17-year-old for a year that is not theirs is either insane or extremely kind. And of course, this was the case in their kindness to us so much. And as Jason said, he was a wonderful congregant, someone that was so supportive from day one. And also, I was never afraid to ask him a question about the congregation or maybe about any of you sitting here today. And he was always very honest and forward with me. And that was another thing about Jerry. He also just let you know where he stood every minute of the day. Yes, he was stubborn to a degree and he had his own opinions. We had political discussions, which often were very interesting. And at the same time, we talked about other things in life also, he and I. We talked often about some of you sitting here down in the congregation who spoke, especially the three who spoke first. And sometimes I feel that I know more about your lives than maybe you knew about your lives when we talked together. Travel, I'm not even going to mention because it was part of his life so very much in their life. But he taught Leona, my wife and I, one thing. He taught us that take your grandchildren for their bar bat mitzvah somewhere, and virus hoping to end, or at least get better, we are taking our granddaughter who had her bat mitzvah on a trip, and we always said we want to have that love of travel and have her have that, as Jerry and Judy had. Jerry, you cannot say Jerry without saying Judy, and you cannot say Judy without saying Jerry, because the two of them were just like this all of the time. They are a couple, and I know how much he's going to be missed, Judy, by you. You were so kind, and he was so kind. And I remember a couple of things that he would always do. When I would say, well, can we get together? He would say, no, Judy has to go and be with the children in the Bay Area. And it was sort of, in a sense saying, well, she does that. But there was that pride that was there all of the time as to pride he had in you and who you are in your relationship and what you did and the care you took, which was said a few moments ago also of Jerry. And he was so proud of all of you who are sitting here and the family. It meant so much to him, and his eyes just lit up. And as each generation was born, his eyes lit up more and more and more, including the generation that's sitting right over here. And I saw Jerry, too, in another way. When I first came here, he was rather formal, sometimes even brusque to a certain degree. But as each generation was born, there was a softening, and there was a kindness, and there was this love that just emanated from him so very, very much. And that was really the most important thing of all to him. I want to say two other things I think that many don't know about Jerry. One goes back to allergies. When our son first had the allergies, and some of you sitting over here can deal with this, I said to Jerry, is he going to be able to be in athletics at all? And this is what Jerry replied, and I will never forget this at all. He said, my goal as an allergist, a goal dealing with children, especially who may have asthma or have allergies. My goal is to help them live a normal life and to make sure that they are able to cross the finish line in whatever they do. What a wonderful image that leaves, that he says that the children are able to cross the finish line. And I don't know how many people in the practice and how many children were able to live that normal life and to participate in athletics that they wanted to participate in or anything else, and to cross the finish line. What more could we say about any human being and what he wanted to do for others, and especially for the children? So it's not a surprise how much all of you meant to him. We're sad because Jerry is gone. Jerry, who my wife and I called the energetic bunny. Jerry, though, died the way he would want to die. He died without really suffering. Yes, we know he had the lymphoma, but I don't think he could have lived with any long, long disease that really made him not able to go to work that next day. And so it is for him and really for us that he lived the way he wanted to, and he also died the way he wanted to. And he did it in his own terms. When we would get together for dinners very frequently, as frequently as we could with your schedules and my schedules, we would meet somewhere. And Jerry, who at the beginning of our relationship again was rather formal, as we became more friendly and more friendly, each time as we met, he would give a very, very big hug to Leona and to me, as would Judy. But Judy hugged all the time. In fact, I think today the hardest thing is that she's not able to hug people. But Jerry was not a hugger, and he became a hugger. And each time he would say, when we say, we love the two of you, he would say, we love you also. It is a friendship that we will always treasure and continue to treasure with Judy and with the family. And we feel blessed that you have been part of our lives and have brought us into your family. It is indeed a blessing. I'd like to end with a rabbinic story, one I sometimes tell at funerals of people that are very, very special. And it goes like this, that there were 4 rabbis who were discussing many years ago, a couple thousand years ago, how would they like to be remembered when they died? And one of the rabbis said, I'd like to be remembered by the power that I've achieved. And the second, by the knowledge that I've achieved. And the third, by the fame I've achieved. And the 4th rabbi, and if you know anything about Jewish stories, it's always the last one who gets the right opinion. And the 4th rabbi said, I always want to be remembered as a Shem Tov, a good name, and a Shem Bracha, a name that is always associated with blessing. Jerry Yecies' name will always be remembered as a good name, and indeed his life will always be remembered as a Shem Tov, a name that is with bracha, with blessing. Before it was canceled a few days ago, and I'll end with this, I was supposed to be on a panel that I was organizing about what does Judaism believe in afterlife. And there are many different beliefs, but the one I think we heard today mentioned so very, very much is one from our old prayer book, what I like to call the Bumpy Union prayer book, the old blue one that some of us grew up with. And at the end of the prayer you're going to hear in a few moments called the Kaddish, the prayer that says we live life and value life, but is said at the end of a funeral and for other reasons. That at the end of this it says, may their life abide among us as a loving benediction. Jerry's life will always abide among us as a loving benediction. Ken Yehi Ratzon, may this be God's will. Amen. And now, if you could please rise for one of the 2 prayers of morning, the Eo Mole Rachamim. We now read Kaddish. The word Kaddish means holiness, actually. And although it's a prayer mentioned at times of death, it really is a prayer of life and the life that we have lived. Yitgadal v'yitgadash shemei Rabbah, v'yalmad yivrach Yerutei v'yamlich malchutei, v'chayechon v'yomechon v'chayei v'chol beit Yisrael, v'agalah v'zman kariv v'imru amen. Yehei shmei Rabbah v'barach le'olam l'amei maya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh. V'yitadar v'yitalev v'yitalal shemei nekudashah barichu. Le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata. Tushbechata v'nechemata. Da'admiran v'yalma v'imru amen. Yehei shlama rabba min shemaya v'chaim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Oseh shalom b'ramav, huyaseh shalom aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. May God grant peace to those who mourn and comfort to all the bereaved among us. Let us say together, Amen. Please be seated. I'd like to end with the following. This is a poem by a woman named Hannah Senesh, who during the Nazi period parachuted into Nazi territory to try to save Jews, was killed herself. It starts off with, "There are stars up above." We heard so much how Jerry traveled and how many countries and the light he gave to so many people from his family on. So I think this poem is very appropriate. The stars will be shining all over the world because of Jerry Yecies. There are stars up above so far away we only see their light, long, long after the star itself is gone. And so it is with people that we love. Their memories keep shining ever brightly, though their time with us is done. But the stars that light up the darkest night, these are the lights that guide us as we live our days. These are the ways we remember.
Thank you, Stephen. Your presence here today was a great source of comfort to Jerry's family and to all of us. And we cherish your friendship and your leadership. On behalf of the family, we wish to express our gratitude to everyone who came today to express their love and their support to the family, and to those of you out in cyberspace who joined us today. So glad that you could connect with us. Those of us who are here, in a moment we're going to go into the social hall for a meal of consolation and a wonderful opportunity to continue telling stories and sharing wonderful memories about Jerry and his life. When the meal has completed, those of you who can stay, we're going to come back into the sanctuary for the first Shiva Minyan. It's a brief service, opportunity to recite the memorial prayer again and to share a few memories. And there will be a Shiva Minyan on both Monday and Tuesday night at 7 p.m. at the Yecies home, and everyone is invited.
I think we all know that Judy is very concerned about our meal of condolence afterwards. So one of the things, all of you who are virtual, please go to your kitchen, to your refrigerator, and in honor of Judy, have something to eat, okay?
And don't forget dessert. And those of us who are here, we're going to practice social distancing. And there is a buffet, but we're going to be served by servers so that we're not all grasping the same utensils. Once again, thank you for your presence and for your love. And this concludes our service. Oh, okay. Judy had a wonderful suggestion. Let us join together in a moment. The blessing for the meal. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam hamotzi lechem min haaretz. brings forth bread from the earth. Amen.
Hi, Modeng.
Mascot is